Good evening, and welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, we will drift together into a story that belongs to every breeze, every wave, and every living breath upon the earth. Let this be a time for slowing down, for letting your thoughts dissolve like clouds across a soft evening sky. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to listen, to feel, and to rest in the quiet rhythm of a planet that is still alive beneath your feet. You close your eyes, and the air becomes a slow whisper moving through space. The gentle hum outside your window is not just wind, it is the voice of the earth breathing. Somewhere beyond the horizon, oceans rise and fall, mountains exhale their mist, and forests sway like a pulse made of green light. You are surrounded by motion even in stillness. And within that movement, the story of our climate begins. Long before our species walked the land, before cities or names or words, the planet learned how to balance warmth and cold, light and darkness, air and sea. Every atom of oxygen you breathe tonight was once part of a leaf, a raindrop, a coral reef, or a drifting cloud. You are breathing the same air that once filled the lungs of whales and dinosaurs. The same molecules that cooled the night over deserts and forests long gone. The climate has always been alive, not static, but rhythmic, like the beating of a heart. Imagine the first drop of rain as it falls from the clouds. It touches the soil, slides into the roots of a tree, and becomes part of a stream that winds toward the ocean. There, under sunlight, it rises again, invisible but not gone, joining the sky once more. This cycle has turned endlessly through ages of ice and fire. It is delicate, precise, and full of memory. The word climate simply means the pattern of these eternal exchanges, the invisible web that connects sunlight to rain, wind to seed, you to everything else. Now picture the air itself, a vast and unseen ocean flowing around the planet. Tiny particles drift through it, bits of salt from the sea, dust from deserts, and traces of breath from every living thing. This air wraps the world in a thin, transparent shell that holds warmth close to the surface. It is what keeps our oceans liquid, our forests alive, and our bodies at peace. But this balance, once so steady, is beginning to tremble. The warmth that once came and went with the turning of seasons now lingers a little longer. Ice melts faster. Rain falls in stranger places. The planet's song is still beautiful, but it is slightly out of tune. You might not see these changes in the quiet of your room, but they surround you. They live in the gentle shift of winds, in the timing of the seasons, in the migrations of birds that arrive a few days early each spring. Climate change is not a sudden shout, it is a soft murmur that grows louder with time. It is the earth responding, adjusting, trying to find its rhythm again as new energy moves through its veins. Yet this story is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to remind you. The planet is resilient. Life has survived and transformed through countless chapters of heat, cold, and renewal. And tonight, as you drift deeper into calm, you will see that even in change, there is grace. Clouds still form, trees still reach upward, oceans still shimmer with light. Climate change is not the end of the world. It is the world speaking in a new language, one we are still learning to understand. Take a slow breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Cool and patient. The carbon that leaves your body will soon join the sky, drift across oceans, or rest within the leaves of a distant forest. You are part of this endless exchange. The climate does not live outside of you, it flows through you, shaping every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of warmth upon your skin. Far in the north, The ice sighs as it meets the sea. Deep below, rivers of meltwater carve new paths through stone. In the tropics, heavy rain releases the scent of life into the air. And above all, the atmosphere glows faintly blue, a fragile veil holding the story of billions of years. The earth is breathing still, and you are part of that breath. So as the night deepens and your body begins to soften into rest, listen, the world is not angry. It is calling for balance, for care, for attention. What we call climate change is, in truth, a message, a reminder that we are never separate from the planet we walk upon. Every heartbeat is connected to a wave, every sigh to a storm, every dream to the wind that circles the world. Now, let yourself sink into stillness. The air is calm, the world turns gently, and you are safe within it. Tonight, you will travel through oceans, clouds, forests, and time itself, discovering how warmth, water, and light dance together to create life. This is not a journey of fear, but of wonder. The wonder of living on a planet that is always learning to begin again. What if you could stand above the earth and watch its breath unfold? Imagine floating high enough to see the swirl of clouds moving across continents, rivers winding through valleys like silver veins, and the faint shimmer of light where oceans meet the sun. From up there, everything seems peaceful, vast, slow, and beautifully alive. Yet beneath that calm surface, the planet is always in motion, constantly adjusting to keep itself in balance. You begin to wonder, what keeps this rhythm steady? And what happens when it shifts? To understand the climate is to understand the conversation between Earth and the Sun. Every day, the Sun sends streams of light to the planet, warming land and water. Some of that warmth stays, and some reflects back into space. This exchange is the heartbeat of climate, a delicate balance between receiving and releasing. Without it, our world would be frozen and silent. With too much of it, the oceans would boil, the forests would wither, and the air would turn heavy with heat. What keeps life possible is this perfect dance of energy and return. A rhythm so ancient that every grain of sand remembers it. Think of the atmosphere as a soft, invisible blanket. It is made of gases: nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, all drifting together in unseen harmony. Each gas plays a role, trapping just enough warmth to keep the Earth's surface gentle and alive. The problem begins when that balance is disturbed, when too much of one ingredient tilts the recipe of the sky. Over centuries, humanity's fire, industry, and movement have added layers to this blanket. Now, the warmth that once escaped is held closer, longer, deeper. The air itself is remembering more heat than it can carry away. You might picture this not as a disaster, but as a fever, the body of Earth growing slightly warmer, its pulse rising in search of equilibrium. A fever can be a sign of healing or of stress. It tells you that something inside needs rest, attention, and change. In this sense, the planet is not dying, it is calling. Its forests, oceans, and winds are speaking the language of imbalance. And if you listen carefully, you can hear their message in every storm, drought, and gentle thaw of ice. Imagine walking through a quiet forest at dawn. The air is cool, and mist curls around the trunks like breath. A bird calls from far above, and drops of dew glisten on the tips of leaves. You can almost feel the exchange happening around you, trees drawing in carbon, releasing oxygen, the soil absorbing moisture, roots weaving life together underground. This forest is part of the climate, a living participant in the Earth's balance. Every tree, every leaf, Every drop of sap is part of the grand system that breathes with you. Now look up at the clouds drifting overhead. They are not just shapes in the sky, they are floating mirrors, reflecting sunlight back into space while also holding warmth within their embrace. When they move, they carry water from one part of the planet to another, balancing drought and rain. The monsoon, the drizzle, the storm, all are parts of the same grand circulation. And when this circulation begins to change, so too does everything beneath it. The path of rain shifts, seasons stretch and shorten, and life learns to adapt once again. You may begin to realize that climate is not something separate from the story of life. It is the stage, the rhythm, and the melody that life dances to. From coral reefs to mountain snow, from the calm of night to the shimmer of sunrise, every ecosystem sings in the same key. Even you, the warmth of your breath, the moisture of your skin, the food that nourishes you, are threads in this same tapestry. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the temperature of the air around you. That gentle warmth is sunlight that has traveled 93 million miles to rest on your skin. Some of it will radiate back into space, some will remain shared between air, water, and living tissue. You are part of this transfer. Every movement, every exhale, every fire lit and every seed planted sends a ripple through the climate's calm sea. You are not outside the system. You are within it, shaping it, being shaped by it. And yet, the story is not one of blame. It is one of awareness. The more we understand the way the planet breathes, the more we learn how to breathe with it. Climate change may sound vast, but at its heart it is intimate. It happens in the warmth of homes, in the growth of gardens, in the quiet choices made by billions of living hands. It is the collective pulse of humanity finding its place within the larger body of Earth. So as this journey opens, imagine yourself walking across a landscape both familiar and eternal. You will visit places where glaciers speak in the language of ice, where coral glows like underwater fire, where wind sculpts deserts into art. You will see the ways that heat moves, how water sings, and how the world remembers. You will discover that climate change is not only science, it is poetry written in temperature and time. And as you drift deeper into this story, your body will begin to feel its rhythm too, slow, vast, and full of quiet understanding. The climate of Earth is the result of countless exchanges of energy. Sunlight enters the atmosphere as golden warmth, striking oceans, forests, and deserts in unequal measure. Some of that light bounces back towards space, but much of it is absorbed by the surface, transformed into heat, and re-radiated upward. The story of climate begins here, with the dance between light and reflection. This delicate balance is known as the greenhouse effect. It is a natural process. The reason Earth is warm enough for oceans to exist and for life to thrive. Certain gases in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, nitrous oxide, trap heat that would otherwise escape into space. Without them, our planet would be an icy desert. But with too much of them, the warmth becomes suffocating. For most of history, this balance stayed steady. Volcanoes released carbon into the air, while oceans and plants absorbed it again. Rocks weathered slowly, drawing carbon down into the crust. Every exhale of a living creature was matched by the inhale of a growing leaf. For millions of years, Earth's chemistry found harmony within change. Then came the Industrial Age, and the balance began to tilt. The burning of coal, oil, and gas released stored carbon that had been trapped underground for eons. In only 2 centuries, humanity returned to the sky what nature had buried for 500 million years. The atmosphere thickened with invisible warmth. It was a small change in composition, but a great change in rhythm. Carbon dioxide is often described as a trace gas, because it makes up less than 0.5% of the atmosphere. Yet that fraction controls the thermostat of the planet. Like the strings of a musical instrument, a small tension can change the tone of the whole song. As carbon levels rise, the planet's melody grows warmer. The seasons shift their notes, and the tempo of storms quickens. Methane, another greenhouse gas, is even more potent in trapping heat. It seeps from wetlands, rice fields, and the stomachs of grazing animals, but also from pipelines and melting permafrost. Each molecule captures more warmth than carbon dioxide, though it lasts for a shorter time. Together, these gases create a gentle thickening of the air, not enough to see, but enough to feel in the rising patterns of wind and water. The oceans act as the great lungs of the climate system. They absorb about 1/4 of all human-made carbon dioxide, turning some into dissolved carbonic acid. This subtle chemical shift is changing the ocean's pH, making it slightly more acidic. For coral reefs and shell-forming creatures, this means the water that once built their homes now slowly erodes them instead. The ocean remembers every breath of carbon humanity releases. Temperature does not rise evenly across the planet. Land warms faster than water because it cannot store heat as deeply. The Arctic warms faster than the equator because ice, which once reflected sunlight, melts to reveal darker water that absorbs it. This feedback is like a mirror cracking, each piece catching less light, each reflection fading sooner. The poles are teaching us how quickly balance can slip away. Glaciers are the archives of the planet. Layer by layer, they have stored the story of Earth's atmosphere for hundreds of thousands of years. When scientists drill into ancient ice, they find bubbles of trapped air, tiny time capsules revealing the carbon content of ancient skies. Those frozen whispers show that today's levels of carbon dioxide are higher than at any time in the past 800,000 years. The ice speaks with perfect memory. Weather and climate are often confused, yet they are not the same. Weather is the mood of the day, climate is the character of the century. A single storm or snowflake tells a short story, but climate tells a novel written over lifetimes. To understand climate change, you must look not at today's sky, but at the patterns that weave through generations. Energy moves through this system like music through air. The sun sends light, the surface releases heat, and the atmosphere conducts it onward. When more energy stays than leaves, the rhythm accelerates. Oceans expand as they warm. Ice melts into sea, and winds adjust to new gradients of pressure. The result is not chaos but a new equilibrium that life must learn to meet. Even plants feel this shift. Longer growing seasons change the timing of blossoms, migrations, and pollination. Some species adapt quickly, others cannot. Bees arrive too early, flowers bloom too late, and an ancient clock of cooperation begins to tick unevenly. This is how climate change writes itself into the poetry of living things, quietly, precisely, and everywhere. Yet within these changes, there is resilience. Forests regrow after fire, coral recovers after storm, and seeds wait patiently for the right season. Life has always adjusted to the turning of conditions. What makes this age different is the speed of the change, faster than most species can adapt, faster than memory can prepare. It is a story of acceleration, not merely alteration. So the foundation of climate change lies not in anger but in physics, chemistry, and time. Every molecule of gas, every ray of sunlight, every ripple in the sea adds a line to this vast equation. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. The climate is not simply changing, it is responding to what we have taught it. And as we listen, we begin to understand that this response is not punishment, but reflection, a mirror held up by nature, showing us how interconnected every heartbeat truly is. The air around you may feel empty, but it is full of structure. Invisible currents of energy move constantly, carrying moisture, heat, and dust across the planet. This endless circulation forms the great engines of weather, the Hadley cells that lift warm air near the equator, the jet streams that weave high above continents, the monsoons that breathe between land and sea. These invisible rivers of air knit the world together, shaping climates thousands of miles apart. When heat gathers unevenly, the atmosphere seeks balance. Warm air rises, cool air descends, and the two swirl into patterns of motion. This is how wind is born, an expression of energy moving from fullness toward calm. In the same way, oceans circulate to spread warmth. Surface currents carry heat from the tropics to the poles, while deep currents return coolness to the equator. It is a planetary heartbeat measured not in seconds but in centuries. The Gulf Stream is one of these great arteries. It flows northward from the Caribbean, carrying warmth that softens winters in Europe. But as melting ice pours fresh water into the North Atlantic, the current weakens slightly. The balance between salt and temperature shifts, and the engine that drives this circulation grows uncertain. If it slows too much, entire patterns of climate could rearrange, turning once green lands cold and dry. On the other side of the world, the Pacific Ocean holds another rhythm, the El Niño and La Niña cycles. Every few years, warm water drifts eastward, changing rainfall patterns across continents. Droughts visit some regions, floods visit others, and the pulse of global weather tilts for a while before resetting. Climate change intensifies these natural oscillations, stretching their strength and duration like tides under a stronger moon. Water vapor, too, plays its quiet role. It is the most abundant greenhouse gas, though it stays only briefly in the atmosphere. When air warms, it can hold more moisture, and that moisture traps more heat. This feedback amplifies the initial change, creating heavier rains and stronger storms. The same warmth that melts glaciers can also bring floods. The climate's kindness and its fury share the same root: energy held too long. The cryosphere, the world of ice and snow, responds more visibly. At the poles and in mountain ranges, glaciers retreat year after year, exposing dark rock that absorbs more sunlight. Permafrost, once frozen for millennia, begins to thaw, releasing methane long trapped beneath its surface. It is as if the Earth's memory is being unlocked, releasing the whispers of ancient air back into the present. Each release adds warmth, and each degree of warmth reveals more ice to melt. Sea level rise is one of the most measured signs of this transformation. It comes from two sources: the melting of ice on land and the expansion of seawater as it warms. A single millimeter may seem small, yet across the entire ocean, it represents billions of tons of water. Low-lying islands, deltas, and coastlines begin to slip beneath tides that grow bolder each decade. What was once a distant prediction has become a slow-motion tide reaching every shore. Storms carry another signature of change. As oceans warm, more energy becomes available to feed cyclones and hurricanes. The storms may not occur more often, but they gather strength more quickly, their winds tightening and their rainfall intensifying. In some places, ancient forests fall to new tempests; in others, droughts stretch longer between seasons. The balance of the water cycle bends, but it does not break, it adapts, just as the planet always has, but in ways we are only beginning to understand. In the quiet heart of the ocean, plankton drift with the currents. Invisible but essential, these microscopic plants absorb carbon through photosynthesis. Just as forests do on land, they form the base of the marine food chain, feeding everything from tiny fish to the largest whales. As temperatures rise, some species shift their range toward cooler waters, altering entire ecosystems. The smallest changes in the ocean's chemistry ripple upward, reshaping the web of life that feeds humanity itself. The forests respond in their own language. Trees grow faster in warmth, but drought and fire come more often. Some regions see greener canopies, others see dust and ash. Fires release carbon that once was locked in wood, returning it to the sky. New growth follows, absorbing it again, a rhythm that repeats like breathing. Yet when fires become too frequent, the balance falters, and forests turn from sinks of carbon into sources of it. All these cycles, air, water, fire, and life, intertwine in a single feedback network. A small push in one corner of the system can echo through the whole. When the air holds more heat, the sea expands. When the sea rises, it changes wind. When wind shifts, rain follows new paths. The earth is a web, not a machine, and each thread carries the weight of the rest. To study climate change is to study time itself. Every measurement taken today is a message from both past and future. Ice cores, coral skeletons, and tree rings record temperatures and carbon levels across centuries. Satellites now add their own chapters, reading the heat of every square kilometer from orbit. Together, these instruments tell a single truth: the rhythm of the planet is accelerating. But acceleration does not mean inevitability. Even as the graphs rise, there is still agency in the gentle choices made each day, the energy we use, the forests we protect, the stories we tell. Climate change is not a verdict. It is a mirror showing how closely our lives reflect the energy of the world around us. And when you look into that mirror, you begin to see not despair, but connection, a reminder that change is the constant pulse of life itself. Every element of the Earth's system has a rhythm of its own. The soil breathes slowly, exchanging gases with the air through the quiet labor of roots and microbes. In each handful of earth, billions of organisms work unseen, turning fallen leaves into life again. When the soil warms beyond its memory, its balance shifts. Microbes release carbon faster than plants can reclaim it, and what once was storage becomes release. Even beneath our feet, the planet's chemistry is alive and listening. The balance between land and ocean determines how much carbon stays in the sky. Forests, grasslands, and mangroves act as carbon sinks, drawing in carbon dioxide and turning it into wood and leaf. But when forests burn or soils erode, the process reverses. The atmosphere becomes a reflection of the land's health. Each tree is a small machine of balance, each wetland a quiet lung for the planet. Together they form an invisible architecture holding the climate steady. Agriculture has its own imprint on the atmosphere. Fields that feed billions also release greenhouse gases, methane from rice paddies, nitrous oxide from fertilized soil, carbon from machines that till and harvest. The story of feeding humanity is intertwined with the story of warming the world. Yet it is not a hopeless connection. New methods of regenerative farming return carbon to the soil, allowing fields to act again as sinks rather than sources. The earth responds not just to harm but to healing. Cities are another reflection of this changing rhythm. More than half of humanity now lives among concrete and glass. Urban areas absorb sunlight, creating heat islands that raise local temperatures by several degrees. Roads, buildings, and exhaust together form microclimates of their own. Yet cities also hold the tools for transformation: efficient energy, shared transport, and green roofs that breathe. In the quiet of night, even the most crowded skyline glows like a constellation of possibility. The chemistry of the atmosphere is delicate, like ink spreading across water. Nitrogen and oxygen form its structure, but carbon dioxide, ozone, and aerosols color its mood. Aerosols, those tiny particles of dust, ash, or salt, can both warm and cool the planet. Some reflect sunlight back into space. Others trap heat like clouds. Volcanic eruptions once cooled entire decades, while industrial haze has shaded regions of sky. The balance of particles and gases creates the texture of sunlight itself, the way morning light softens through mist, or sunsets glow with unfamiliar hues. As carbon levels rise, temperatures follow, but not evenly. Some nights become warmer than days. Some winters arrive later than memory expects. Extreme heat waves stretch across continents, testing the limits of plants, animals, and cities alike. Human bodies, designed for narrow comfort, begin to strain in temperatures they once called rare. The measure of climate change is not just in degrees, but in discomfort, in the quiet exhaustion of ecosystems adjusting faster than they ever have before. Water continues its eternal conversation with the sky. As the air warms, it holds more vapor, intensifying both drought and flood. Dry places grow drier as heat pulls moisture from the ground. Wet places grow wetter as that moisture returns in concentrated bursts. The balance between extremes is thinning, and the middle ground where most life thrives is narrowing. Rivers carry these changes through every landscape, their flow recording the tempo of heat and rain like veins under the planet's skin. The Arctic remains one of the most vivid storytellers of this transformation. Sea ice that once reflected sunlight now gives way to open water that absorbs it. Polar bears wander farther, seals rest on thinner ice, and human ships sail through waters once impassable. The North is a mirror for the world, showing what happens when balance fades, not instantly, but persistently, like the slow dimming of a candle. Yet even here, life endures in adaptation. Mosses colonize new ground, whales adjust their paths, and the rhythm of survival rewrites itself. In the high atmosphere, the story takes a different form. The ozone layer, once threatened by human chemicals, has shown recovery through global cooperation. The phase-out of chlorofluorocarbons allowed the sky to heal, proving that planetary repair is possible. This chapter stands as a quiet testament, when humanity listens to science and acts together. Even the air itself responds with gratitude. The same unity is now needed for carbon, methane, and energy, the new authors of our shared future. Temperature rise by itself may sound small, a single degree or two across a century, but its meaning is immense. A degree changes where crops can grow, when ice will melt, and how storms will form. For the planet, it is the difference between balance and imbalance, between known and unknown, Just as a few beats per minute can alter a human heart, a few degrees can reshape the pulse of the Earth. Every measurement of the modern era carries this truth. Satellites watch from above, measuring sea level, cloud height, and surface heat. Ocean buoys record currents and temperature. Ground stations track rainfall and wind. Together, they form an orchestra of observation. And when their data align, the melody is clear. The planet's energy is accumulating. Slowly but steadily. It is not a scream, but a steady hum, the tone of a world holding more warmth than before. But knowledge itself is a form of light. To understand is to see, and to see is to care. The more humanity learns about the system it inhabits, the more capable it becomes of guiding it. Science does not speak with fear, but with invitation to listen, to act, to harmonize. Each fact revealed by ice or ocean is not a warning bell but a compass, pointing toward balance. Every pulse of the planet connects through time. The warmth that touches your skin tonight was once stored in ancient sunlight, locked inside forests that grew before human history began. When those forests became coal and oil, they captured the memory of light. Burning them now releases that memory all at once, returning millions of years of stored energy in the blink of a geological eye. The air, the sea, and the soil must absorb this sudden remembrance, and in doing so, they shift their balance. The Industrial Revolution marked a turning point in this rhythm. Machines multiplied human effort, cities rose, and energy flowed faster than ever before. Coal and oil burned without pause, each ton of fuel exhaling invisible carbon into the sky. At first, the Earth absorbed it easily. Forests thickened, oceans deepened their breath, but as centuries turned, the capacity for absorption began to strain. The skies slowly brightened with invisible light, infrared, caught and held by the rising veil of gas. Scientists began to notice patterns. Ice records, ocean readings, and atmospheric samples all told the same story. The planet's average temperature had begun to climb. The increase was small in number but enormous in consequence. Glaciers retreated, sea levels crept upward, seasons stretched and folded. The last 50 years have held more rapid change than any comparable span in recorded history. And yet, within this unfolding story, the Earth continues to breathe, restless, but not broken. Energy systems define the heart of modern civilization. Every flicker of light, every flight, every hum of a machine is a conversation between humanity and the planet's stored past. The fuel we use carries the echo of the world that came before us. Fossil fuels are the condensed memory of ancient ferns, plankton, and sunlight. To burn them is to accelerate time itself, collapsing ages of stored energy into moments of heat. Renewable energy seeks to reverse that compression, drawing directly from the present sun, wind, and tide rather than the deep vault of the past. The carbon cycle, though invisible, governs all these transformations. Carbon moves from the atmosphere to the biosphere, to the oceans, and back again. It is the common thread of every breath and flame. Plants fix it into sugar. Animals release it in respiration. Oceans store it as dissolved gas or calcium shell. When this flow is stable, the climate rests in harmony. When it accelerates, balance becomes motion. Each molecule of carbon in the sky is both a relic and a promise, waiting to find its place again in the chain of life. The role of the ocean in this dance is vast. It covers more than 70% of the planet's surface, holding most of its heat. Currents carry energy like arteries, redistributing warmth across hemispheres. As surface water warms, It expands, and that expansion alone accounts for nearly half of sea level rise. In its depths, carbon sinks slowly, sometimes remaining for centuries before resurfacing. The ocean is both the planet's memory and its future, holding the story of all that has been and all that will come. Meanwhile, the cryosphere, the frozen regions, writes its own record of transformation. Ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica hold enough frozen water to raise sea levels by tens of meters if fully melted. Their flow has quickened as air and ocean temperatures climb. Rivers of ice now slide more swiftly toward the sea. Yet ice also holds wisdom. Trapped within its bubbles are samples of atmospheres long gone. Clear proof that the world has changed before, though never this fast. The speed, not the change itself, defines our age. Biodiversity, too, bends beneath this shift. Species migrate uphill and poleward, chasing the temperatures that suit their survival. Coral reefs bleach when waters grow too warm, releasing their colors like sighs into the sea. Insects bloom in seasons that once held frost, carrying both renewal and risk. Life is flexible, yet its flexibility has limits. The pace of warming tests the boundaries of adaptation, forcing every organism, including humans, to rediscover resilience. Human impact reaches beyond gases and heat. Deforestation removes nature's lungs. Overfishing disrupts the ocean's food chains. And pollution clouds the cycles that sustain life. Yet these same hands that alter can also restore. Reforestation, soil recovery, and renewable energy projects show that healing is not only possible but already underway. The Earth's systems still respond quickly to care, just as they respond to harm. The planet does not resist recovery, it welcomes it. To grasp climate change fully is to recognize the interdependence of everything. The sun gives energy, the air distributes it, the sea moderates it, and life transforms it. Remove one strand and the web trembles. But that trembling also reminds us how connected we are to the whole. Each act of preservation strengthens the weave. Each act of neglect loosens it. The climate's health is a mirror of our relationship with the world. Through all of this, science continues to observe and guide. Satellites trace the shimmer of ice. Stations record the slow drift of carbon. And scientists translate those signals into stories that anyone can understand. What they describe is not doom, but motion, a world alive, restless, and changing faster than it once did. The story of climate change is, at its core, a lesson in attention. The more closely we look, the more we see that every cause carries a consequence, and every action a chance for balance. And so, the foundation is laid. We have learned the architecture of air, the pulse of oceans, the chemistry of light, and the breath of soil. The facts are not cold or distant. They are the living bones of the planet's story. As you breathe now, somewhere the ocean is rising, the forest is growing, and the wind is carrying warmth to distant shores. The earth turns, and with it, everything changes, not suddenly, but continuously, in the quiet rhythm that connects all living things. The deeper you travel into the story of climate change, the more you realize that the planet is not reacting in isolation. It is communicating through ocean currents, jet streams, and shifting seasons. Every gust of wind, every falling leaf, every grain of sand moved by a storm is a form of language. A message written in movement. To explore this deeper is to listen not only to data, but to the tone of the world itself. The oceans, vast and quiet, are the memory keepers of heat. More than 90% of the excess warmth trapped by greenhouse gases does not stay in the air. It slips into the water. Layers of the ocean absorb this energy at different depths, creating invisible gradients that alter currents and marine life alike. In the Pacific and Indian Oceans, this stored warmth has begun to reshape rainfall patterns, bringing floods to some coasts and drought to others. The sea holds the planet's fever beneath its calm surface. Marine ecosystems respond with fragile grace. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, depend on symbiotic algae to live. When the water grows too warm, the coral expels these partners, losing both color and nourishment. This bleaching is not instant death, but a cry for balance. If the water cools in time, corals can recover. If not, entire reefs fade like dreams. In these undersea cathedrals, the architecture of life is built on temperature measured in single degrees. As the ocean warms, it also expands, lifting tides higher against coasts that were once secure. Mangrove forests, salt marshes, and tidal wetlands absorb the first touch of these new waves. They are buffers, living fortresses that protect the land. When they vanish under rising waters, coastlines lose not only soil but stability. The sea moves farther inland, swallowing homes, fields, and memories. Yet mangroves, if given space, can migrate too, growing anew along their shifting borders. Life, when not cornered, adapts beautifully. In the upper layers of the atmosphere, another conversation unfolds. The jet stream, a high, fast river of wind that circles the planet, is slowing and bending. As polar regions warm faster than equatorial zones, the contrast in temperature weakens. The jet stream begins to meander, pulling warm air farther north and cold air farther south. This wandering river of air shapes extreme weather across continents, turning once stable climates unpredictable. Extreme events, though rare by definition, have become the punctuation marks of this age. Heatwaves now last longer, breaking records not once a century but every few years. Rainfall concentrates into intense bursts, overwhelming rivers and cities. Wildfires ignite where moisture once lingered, carried by winds that spread embers like whispers. These events are not separate disasters, they are verses in the same poem of imbalance. The more energy the atmosphere holds, the more it must release. Sometimes gently, sometimes with force. But even as the world grows warmer, not every place feels it the same. Some regions face cooling effects from melting ice or altered currents. Others experience swings between flood and drought, between abundance and scarcity. Climate change is not a single direction of heat, it is a redistribution of energy. The Earth's systems are trying, as they always have, to find equilibrium. The challenge is the speed, the new tempo humanity has set without realizing it. In cities, this change takes a human shape. Asphalt and glass trap heat, while tall buildings create canyons that block wind. Nights no longer cool as they once did, and the hum of air conditioners becomes a second heartbeat. Yet within these same cities, new forms of adaptation bloom: rooftop gardens, reflective paints, green corridors that breathe. Urban life becomes both problem and solution, mirror and possibility. The planet evolves through its people, one decision at a time. Even the cryosphere, far from human reach, feels the touch of this accelerated rhythm. The glaciers of the Himalayas feed rivers that sustain nearly 2 billion lives across Asia. As they retreat, seasonal flows change, bringing water too early or too late for crops and cities below. The Andes, The Alps and the Rockies tell similar tales. Ice that once lingered through summer now vanishes before autumn's arrival. The rivers remember their source, but their timing is altered, the memory of snow rewritten by heat. Each of these processes, from coral to current, from storm to glacier, reveals a single truth: the climate is a web of feedbacks. When one thread is pulled, others respond. Warm air holds more moisture fuels storms, storms change landscapes, landscapes reflect or absorb new heat. The system is circular, intricate, alive. The beauty of this circle is that it can spin both ways, toward imbalance or toward renewal, depending on how it is touched. And through all of this, there remains a profound stillness beneath the change. The planet is not collapsing, it is shifting, seeking new patterns within old laws. Its equations still hold, its chemistry still sings. The difference is that now, the song includes us more loudly than before. Humanity is no longer just an audience, it is a participant in the orchestra of air and light. The deeper exploration of climate change is not about discovering a villain, but rediscovering our role within the score. The more closely you listen, the more you realize that the earth speaks in rhythms too large for a single lifetime to hear. Climate is not a mood but a memory, a pattern woven across centuries by wind, sunlight, and water. Beneath its changes lies a persistent order, a quiet intelligence that seeks balance through adaptation. What seems like chaos to human eyes is often simply the planet correcting its own pulse. One of the most powerful forces guiding that correction is the carbon cycle itself. Carbon does not vanish, it moves, endlessly reshaping its form. It floats in the atmosphere as invisible gas, dissolves in oceans as acid, builds skeletons in coral, and weaves itself into the tissues of trees. When a leaf falls, carbon returns to the soil. When a volcano erupts, it escapes again to the air. Every movement of carbon is a sentence in the Earth's long conversation about equilibrium. But when humanity adds too many sentences at once, the story becomes crowded. The natural processes that once balanced carbon now struggle to keep pace. Forests can only absorb so much, oceans can only dissolve so fast. The rest lingers, thickening the veil that wraps the planet. Scientists measure this accumulation in parts per million, small numbers that hold immense power. Each rise in concentration marks a deeper shift in the chemistry of air, the texture of light, and the memory of heat. Yet even this imbalance has nuance. Some regions are learning to absorb more carbon through restored wetlands and reforested hillsides. These acts of healing do not erase the past but soften its impact. When trees return, rain often follows. When soil regains its life, it breathes differently, capturing carbon the way lungs capture air. The planet remembers how to heal, it only needs room to do so. In the deep ocean, unseen currents trace their ancient paths. Cold water sinks near the poles, carrying dissolved gases into darkness, where they may rest for centuries. This process, called the ocean conveyor, stabilizes the climate by storing carbon far below the surface. But as surface waters warm and fresh meltwater changes their density, the circulation weakens. The deep sea begins to hold its breath. A pause in this flow could shift rainfall, temperature, and ecosystems across the world. Deserts, too, play their part in the great balance. Though they seem lifeless, they shape the atmosphere with their dust. Every year, winds lift fine particles of sand from the Sahara and carry them across the Atlantic. where they nourish the Amazon rainforest with minerals. Without deserts, the jungles would starve. Without rainforests, the deserts would expand. It is an elegant symmetry, dryness feeding life, abundance maintaining emptiness. Climate change threatens both, altering the winds that connect them. In the far north, the tundra lies like a sleeping archive of ancient plant matter. Beneath its surface, permafrost stores vast amounts of carbon, nearly twice as much as is currently in the atmosphere. As it thaws, microbes awaken, digesting the frozen remains and releasing carbon dioxide and methane. What was once sealed beneath snow becomes a new source of heat. Feeding the cycle further, it is as if the past itself has begun to breathe again, quietly adding its voice to the present. But not all feedbacks lead to loss. Some carry the promise of renewal. As technology advances, humanity learns to mimic the wisdom of natural cycles. Solar panels turn sunlight directly into energy without fire. Wind turbines draw power from the same air that carries pollen and birds. Geothermal wells borrow heat from the planet's own steady heart. These are not inventions against nature but conversations with it. A rediscovery of how to live within rather than upon the world. Cultural shifts mirror these physical ones. Entire communities are learning to live differently, planting mangroves instead of concrete seawalls, harvesting rainwater instead of channeling it away, designing homes that cool themselves with shade rather than machines. These actions may seem small, but together they form a new narrative, one of cooperation rather than extraction. Climate change is not only a test of science, it is a test of imagination, of how humanity envisions its place in the story of Earth. The evidence of change lies everywhere, yet the experience is deeply personal. A farmer watches the rains arrive late. A fisherman finds new species in warmer currents. A child grows up seeing summers that feel longer than her parents remember. Each person becomes a witness to the planet's transformation, a living record of how the abstract becomes real. Climate is not something outside of us, it is the pattern that includes us, shaping our choices, our food, our memories. Even in the silence of night, the planet hums with continuity. The same physics that once sculpted ice ages now shapes the modern storm. The same chemistry that once cooled oceans now decides their warmth. Through every shift, the Earth remains patient, intricate, and alive. The deeper we look, the more we see that climate change is not simply an environmental story. It is an emotional one, a mirror of how the living world responds when it is touched too quickly. And within that mirror lies both warning and wonder. When you begin to think of the planet as a living being, its changes no longer feel abstract. The Earth breathes, circulates, and remembers. The forests act as its lungs, the oceans as its blood, the atmosphere as its skin. Every fluctuation in climate is a sensation, a signal that the balance of energy has shifted. To explore this idea is to understand that climate change is not simply about numbers or graphs, but about the sensations of a living world responding to touch. Temperature rise, though measured in degrees, carries immense emotion in its consequences. In some places, heat waves linger for weeks, soft asphalt melts beneath footsteps, and rivers shrink into ribbons of dust. In others, heavy rain falls with sudden ferocity, flooding fields that once grew golden with harvest. The rhythm of seasons grows less predictable, and the cycle that once guided planting, migration, and rest begins to blur. To animals and humans alike, the changing climate feels like the slow shifting of time itself. In the polar night, Darkness stretches across months, yet even there the signature of warming glows faintly in the air. Sea ice that once sealed the ocean in silence now fractures early, opening dark water that absorbs sunlight and hastens more melting. The Arctic is not only a landscape but a memory of cold, a memory now fading. As ice disappears, the animals that depend on it must change their maps of life. Polar bears swim longer distances. Walruses crowd on shrinking shores. And migratory birds alter their routes in search of food. The web of adaptation tightens with every season. Deep in tropical forests, the change takes another form. Trees that once thrived in consistent humidity now endure erratic rain. Some shed leaves too early, while others extend their roots into deeper soil. Droughts ignite fires that creep through the underbrush, leaving behind mosaics of ash and renewal. The rainforest breathes unevenly, exhaling more carbon than before. Yet even within this stress, new species emerge, plants that bloom with greater efficiency. Fungi that help roots draw water from parched ground. Evolution stirs in real time, reshaping life to fit a new rhythm. Oceans record their own transformations in the language of acidity. As carbon dioxide dissolves into seawater, it forms carbonic acid, altering the chemistry that marine life depends on. Shellfish find it harder to build their calcium homes. Coral grows brittle, and tiny plankton, the foundation of the food chain, struggle to maintain their shells. These are small, silent changes, invisible to the naked eye, yet they echo through every level of life. When plankton falter, fish wander, and when fish move, human communities feel the emptiness of the sea. High above, clouds weave a new pattern. Some thicken, reflecting sunlight and cooling the earth, others thin, allowing more heat to escape. Still others shift their altitude, catching radiation that once flowed freely to space. The study of clouds has become one of the most delicate puzzles in climate science, a ballet of light, moisture, and motion that can amplify or ease the planet's warmth. Each cloud, transient as breath, shapes the balance of energy in ways still being understood. In the vast expanse of land, permafrost thaw releases methane in bursts. Invisible but potent, forest fires release black soot that darkens snow, accelerating its melt. Crops ripen earlier, but their nutritional value declines slightly as carbon levels rise. Small changes accumulate, weaving subtle threads through the pattern of life. Climate change is not only the drama of hurricanes and glaciers, it is also the quiet rearrangement of daily details, the flowering of plants, the call of birds, the timing of dawn. And still, beauty persists. Sunsets burn richer as particles in the atmosphere scatter light into deeper hues. Storms carve new coastlines that glitter under moonlight. Icebergs, drifting away from their frozen homes, glisten like moving stars. Even destruction carries aesthetic echoes, reminding us that creation and loss have always shared the same breath. To see climate change fully is to witness both the trembling of what fades and the resilience of what remains. Across continents, communities adapt in ways that echo ancient wisdom. Farmers plant mixed crops to survive uncertain weather. Fishermen follow new currents guided by satellites. Architects rediscover the geometry of shade and wind that older civilizations once used to cool their homes. In these acts, humanity learns that technology and tradition can coexist, that progress need not abandon patience. The planet is teaching us again how to listen, how to align with its slower heartbeat. Every layer of this story, from the microscopic to the cosmic, reflects a single lesson. The world does not resist change. It transforms through it. What challenges life also reshapes it, creating new paths of survival. The question is not whether the earth will endure, but whether humanity can adapt with the same grace. The answer lies in understanding that balance is not stillness, it is movement. A dance where every step matters. And as the earth adjusts its rhythm, we are invited to find our place within the music once more. To look deeper into the story of climate change is to witness the invisible architecture of connection. Beneath every storm lies a chain of causes reaching across oceans and centuries. A drought in one hemisphere may begin with the loss of sea ice in another. A flood in the tropics may trace its origins to air currents shaped by industrial heat thousands of miles away. The world is not divided by borders, it is bound by the movement of air and water. Light and shadow. The planet feels its own unity through the motion of its systems. Energy is never lost, it only changes form. When the sunlight that once fueled ancient forests is released again through fire or combustion, that energy returns to motion. It drifts upward into the atmosphere, thickening the layer that catches warmth. The physics are simple, but the consequences profound. The more energy the system holds, the more actively it seeks ways to disperse it. Storms, currents, and winds are not random violence, they're the planet's language of balance. Its way of finding release through creation. Every system of life is tuned to these flows. The migration of birds follows air currents shaped by temperature. The blooming of flowers depends on the subtle tilt of the Earth's axis and the dance between sun and moisture. When this timing shifts, entire ecologies must improvise. Some species adapt by changing their routes or breeding seasons, others vanish, leaving silent gaps in the music of life. The harmony of the biosphere is resilient, but even resilience has a tempo. Push it too fast, and it struggles to find its rhythm. Yet in this new era, the planet is also learning through us. Humanity is both the cause and the instrument of understanding. Never before has any species measured the breadth of the Earth so precisely. Satellites tracing the shimmer of ice. Sensors floating in the deep sea. Instruments perched atop volcanoes reading the gases of creation. We are the eyes of the planet, seeing itself in real time for the first time. Knowledge is how the Earth becomes self-aware through human curiosity. In the quiet chambers of laboratories, scientists study the whispers of air trapped in glass. They measure ancient carbon ratios and simulate the atmosphere's dance of photons. The work may seem distant from nature, but it is born from reverence. Each calculation is an act of listening, each model a form of empathy. Science at its most human is not control but conversation. A way to hear what the world is saying and to translate its silence into understanding. The fingerprints of climate change reach even into sound. Glaciers crack with low, thunderous tones that echo across valleys. Wind moving through scorched forests produces a softer, hollow rustle, as if the land itself is exhaling. The ocean hums at frequencies too deep for ears, resonating through water and rock alike. If you could slow time enough, you would hear the Earth's evolving song, a shifting harmony of rising heat and moving air. At once mournful and majestic. In cities, new patterns of adaptation bloom quietly between concrete and steel. Rooftop gardens trap rainwater and cool the air. Electric vehicles hum through streets once filled with engines. Parks become reservoirs of peace and temperature relief, where shade restores more than just comfort. Even in the heart of human creation, nature finds its way back. weaving green threads through glass towers and busy streets. These spaces remind us that the divide between human and natural worlds has always been an illusion. Economies, too, are rewriting their logic. The concept of endless growth begins to soften into one of regeneration. Energy transitions toward renewables mirror the cycles of life itself: use, rest, and renewal. Circular design, sustainable materials, and conscious consumption are not simply trends. They are echoes of the planet's own intelligence reflected in human hands. The climate's message is not one of rejection but of invitation to grow differently, to thrive without taking more than can be given back. Far from cities, indigenous communities hold memories of coexistence that stretch beyond written history. Their languages describe winds, soils, and seasons with words that hold both science and spirit. In their stories, mountains breathe, rivers remember, and the sky has moods. These perspectives do not oppose modern science, they complete it. They remind us that knowledge without intimacy is incomplete, that to understand the planet fully, we must also feel it. And somewhere above all of this, the thin blue line of atmosphere continues to glow, fragile, transparent, yet capable of sustaining everything known to life. From space, it looks like a wisp of light wrapped around darkness, a boundary between chaos and harmony. Within that boundary lies every story, every breath, every dream. To deepen your understanding of climate change is to realize that this fragile veil is all that stands between warmth and cold, between silence and song. It is thin, but it is enough, if we remember how to care for it. So you take a slow breath, and as air fills your lungs, you join that thin layer of life. You are not outside the system you study, you are within it, participating in its motion with every heartbeat. The deeper you explore, the clearer it becomes. Climate change is not an end, but a moment of awareness, the Earth's way of asking its children to remember that they belong to her. When you reach the quiet heart of understanding, you realize that climate change is not only about science but also about relationship. Every molecule of air is shared, every drop of water recycled through breath and rain. What happens in one corner of the planet touches another. Not metaphorically but literally. The wind that carries dust from the Sahara fertilizes the Amazon. The plankton that bloom in the ocean produce oxygen that fills your lungs. You are not separate from the climate, you are a continuation of it. Even the smallest organism plays a role in this grand exchange. Microbes in the ocean's surface digest carbon and release it in new forms. Lichens on mountain rocks draw nutrients from thin air, preparing soil for trees that will one day breathe for the forest. Termites, fungi, and bacteria, tiny engineers of decay, complete the circle by returning what has fallen back into the flow of life. The entire biosphere functions as a single organism, exhaling and inhaling, warming and cooling, remembering and renewing. When imbalance enters this living web, the shift ripples through every level of existence. More carbon in the air means warmer oceans. Warmer oceans alter rain. Altered rain changes crops. And changing crops influence both human health and economy. Climate is the great connector, turning every choice into resonance. What seems small, a car trip, a forest cut, a light left burning, becomes part of a global chord of cause and effect. The Earth listens to all of it, not in judgment, but in physics. Yet this same interconnectedness holds the potential for healing. A forest protected in one region can cool air that drifts to another. Wetlands restored along a river can clean water for cities downstream. Wind turbines built in open fields reduce the smoke that once dimmed skies far away. Each act of restoration radiates outward, its benefits multiplying through invisible pathways. The system responds to care as readily as it does to harm. The law of connection applies in both directions. Cultural evolution mirrors this awakening. Across continents, people are rediscovering the wisdom of slower living, choosing local food, sharing resources, and reviving traditional practices that value balance over consumption. In the stillness of gardens and the silence of forests, a new understanding of progress is forming. It is not about reaching farther or faster, but about harmonizing movement with meaning. In this way, climate change becomes a teacher, urging humanity to return to rhythm rather than control. Technology, when guided by empathy, amplifies this possibility. Artificial intelligence models predict the motion of storms and the growth of crops, allowing societies to adapt before crisis strikes. Satellites map deforestation in real time, guiding conservation with precision. Clean energy spreads across rooftops, transforming sunlight into song. The same ingenuity that once deepened the imbalance now begins to restore it. When innovation serves understanding, the line between science and compassion disappears. The emotional landscape of the planet changes as awareness grows. People grieve for lost glaciers, for coral reefs fading from memory, for species whose songs will never be heard again. Yet grief is not the opposite of hope, it is its foundation. To mourn the earth is to love it deeply enough to care. Out of that tenderness comes courage. And out of courage, new beginnings. The act of noticing becomes an act of devotion. The moment you care, you are already part of the healing. Education carries this awareness forward. Children now learn that clouds are not just weather, but part of a story that includes them. They plant trees knowing that each sapling will outlive them, contributing oxygen to generations they will never meet. Classrooms fill with curiosity rather than despair. The idea of sustainability becomes not a burden but a promise that life can continue beautifully if it remembers to be gentle. In their laughter and wonder, the earth hears its own hope returning. The future of climate is not written in doom but in decisions. Every action, every discovery, every whisper of kindness accumulates like layers of sediment, forming the foundation of what will come next. The science of climate change tells us what is happening. The soul of climate change reminds us why it matters. Between those two truths lies our path, to understand deeply, to act wisely, and to love without fear. As you stand at the close of this exploration, you can feel the weight of the atmosphere pressing softly against your skin, not heavy, but embracing. It is the same air that carried voices of ancestors and will carry songs of those yet to be born. You breathe, and the planet breathes with you. For a brief, eternal moment, you realize that climate change is not simply a warning, it is an invitation to belong, to awaken, to become once more a conscious part of the living earth. You have now traveled through the science of climate change, through oceans and clouds, through winds that circle the world and ice that holds the memory of air older than human thought. You have seen how energy moves and transforms, how balance bends but does not break, how life adapts and reimagines itself in every age. And now, as the story pauses, it invites reflection. The facts of the earth are also the feelings of existence. What happens to the climate is what happens to you. Because you are not an observer standing apart. You are a pulse within the same rhythm. The atmosphere that cradles the world is the same thin breath that fills your lungs. The water that flows through rivers is the same element that runs quietly in your veins. The warmth that melts ice is the same warmth that rests beneath your skin. The planet does not live around you, it lives within you. To understand climate change, you must feel it not as crisis but as kinship, a reminder that to be alive is to participate in change. Perhaps that is the hidden beauty within all transformation. The world is teaching us that nothing stays still because stillness would mean silence. The waves must move, the wind must turn, the clouds must rise and fall. Change is not destruction, it is continuity expressed in motion. Yet when motion quickens too suddenly, when harmony becomes urgency, it calls for consciousness. Climate change is not the planet's end, it is its way of waking us. Take a moment to imagine the Earth as a single heart. It beats in tides and seasons, in cycles of carbon and light. Every beat draws in life and sends it outward again. For millennia, that rhythm was steady, almost invisible in its perfection. But now the pulse grows louder, faster, seeking balance once more. You can feel it in the weather that arrives unannounced, in the scent of air before the rain, in the way sunsets burn a little deeper each year. The earth is calling not with words but with presence. In this stillness, you begin to hear how personal the planetary truly is. You have your own inner weather, moments of warmth and storm, of drought and renewal. You know what it feels like to hold too much, to need release, to find peace only when balance returns. In this way, you and the planet are mirrors of each other. The lesson of the climate is also the lesson of life. Energy must move, but it must move with care. When you breathe, you are completing a circuit billions of years old. Each inhale is borrowed from the exhalation of forests and oceans. Each exhale becomes nourishment for something else. The simplicity of that exchange carries the truth of all existence, that giving and taking are one continuous motion. The imbalance that shapes the climate arises when that motion becomes uneven. The solution is not withdrawal but rhythm restored. The return to breathing in time with the world again. It is easy to see climate change as distance, as something happening elsewhere, in melting glaciers or rising tides far from daily life. But its story is already here, written into the ordinary. It is in the warmth of nights that used to be cool, in the fields that bloom too early, in the shifting taste of rain. The subtlety of these moments reminds you that change is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives gently, asking not for fear but for attention. Perhaps attention itself is the beginning of healing. When you listen without resistance, the world speaks clearly. A leaf trembles in wind and tells you of air's direction. The still surface of a lake reflects a sky that has changed color by degrees. The sound of birds adjusting their calls to new seasons becomes a soft chorus of adaptation. The world is constantly communicating balance, inviting you to join its conversation. The reflective bridge is a place between understanding and surrender. You know now how the system works. Yet you also know that it is larger than any calculation. The earth does not need saving, it needs remembering. It needs you to remember that you are part of its self-awareness, that your curiosity, your compassion, your imagination are extensions of its intelligence. Through you, the planet looks at itself and learns how to live differently. So let this quiet moment become a breath of gratitude. Thank the air that has touched mountains and seas before reaching you. Thank the water that has been snow, river, tear, and cloud. Thank the warmth that allows you to exist at all. Gratitude is not a solution, but it is the doorway to one, because what you love, you protect naturally. To care for the earth is to care for the part of yourself that is older than memory. You may close your eyes now and feel the subtle vibration that runs through everything. Beneath the hum of electricity, beyond the rustle of trees, there is a sound like a heartbeat that never stops. It belongs to the earth, but you can feel it inside your chest. The reflective bridge brings you here, to this shared pulse. From this place, understanding becomes empathy, and empathy becomes guidance. You are no longer learning about the world, you are learning to move with it. Somewhere out there, in the quiet beyond clouds, sunlight is traveling through space, a stream of ancient energy that has never stopped since the birth of the stars. It moves without haste, touching planets, moons, oceans, and the thin, shimmering skin of Earth's atmosphere. That same light touches your face when you wake and feeds the leaves that breathe for you while you sleep. The power that drives the climate is not distant, it is the same cosmic rhythm that formed your blood, your bones, and the air you breathe. When you begin to see the planet through this wider lens, climate change becomes more than an environmental story. It becomes a cosmic one, a reflection of how the universe experiments with balance. The Earth orbits the Sun at just the right distance for liquid water to exist, for clouds to form, for life to thrive. The thin veil of gases that wraps the planet is an accident of grace, a rare harmony of chemistry and gravity. Everything that happens within it, from the growth of forests to the drift of storms, is part of a delicate cosmic choreography. Somewhere in the oceans, plankton are turning sunlight into oxygen, each cell glowing with microscopic brilliance. Somewhere in a desert, a seed is waiting for a single drop of rain to awaken it. Somewhere in the mountains, snow is storing the promise of rivers yet to come. These are not isolated events, they are verses in the same planetary song. The energy of the sun becomes wind, becomes water, becomes food, becomes you. The carbon you exhale tonight may become the root of a tree 8,000 miles away. The circle is unbroken, even as it changes form. As human awareness expands, we begin to sense that the climate's transformation is not only a test but an invitation to maturity. The Earth is asking its children to understand complexity, to replace reaction with reflection. For centuries, we have lived as though we stood outside nature, looking in, but the truth has always been the opposite. We are nature looking at itself, learning its own patterns through us. The knowledge we gain through science is the planet's self-knowledge unfolding in human minds. Look up at the night sky, and you are seeing not just stars but echoes of the same forces shaping your world. The fusion within those stars is the source of the heat that drives the winds. The iron in your blood was forged in their cores. The carbon that fuels life and warming alike was born in the heart of dying suns. Climate change, when seen from this perspective, is not an error of the universe but part of its continuity, a reminder that creation and transformation have always been one process. The balance of energy that holds the world steady is a fragile miracle. Earth's atmosphere is less than 1% of its mass, yet it determines the fate of every living being. Within this thin film, molecules of carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor dance in patterns of absorption and release, forming the thermal symphony that defines weather and climate. To study it is to listen to music written in light and heat. When we add more notes than the song can hold, the melody shifts, not maliciously but naturally. The challenge is to learn how to play again in tune. Somewhere out there, winds are circling the poles while tides pull quietly at the shores. Somewhere in you, breath and blood follow the same cyclical logic, intake and release, tension and rest. You are made of the same mathematics that moves the sea and the sky. Your heartbeat follows the same rhythm as the waves: rise, fall, and pause. The deeper you sense this connection, the more the planet's story becomes a meditation rather than a warning. The world is not breaking, it is evolving. And it is asking you to evolve with it. Every civilization before this one has felt the influence of climate. Ancient farmers watched the stars to time their planting. Nomads followed rainfall through deserts. Empires rose beside rivers that swelled and fell with predictable grace. Now, in the age of satellites and data, the same relationship continues, but with awareness widened. For the first time, humanity can see the entire planet breathing. This sight carries both humility and awe. We realize that power has always been balanced by dependence, that progress must walk with gratitude, or it forgets where it came from. The expansion of understanding that climate change brings is spiritual as much as scientific. It reminds us that to live gently is not weakness but wisdom. The same forces that carve valleys also shape character. The same patience that allows forests to regrow can teach us how to rebuild with grace. Somewhere out there, the universe continues its eternal balancing act. Somewhere in you, that same balance waits to be remembered. The line between the cosmos and the human heart has never truly existed. It is only the air we breathe that separates their songs. Somewhere out there, the dawn is rising over another horizon, turning oceans into mirrors of gold. In one hemisphere, the world awakens to warmth; in another, night begins its quiet descent. This continuous exchange of light and shadow has guided the rhythm of all living things since time began. Within that daily pulse lies the essence of balance, not static, but moving, adjusting, learning. The climate is a reflection of that same truth. Equilibrium exists only through motion. When you observe the planet in this way, you start to see patterns that feel almost musical. Heat becomes melody, water becomes rhythm, air becomes harmony. Each element plays its part, creating a composition that evolves across ages. Volcanoes contribute percussion, oceans provide bass, forests and storms weave the melody lines. Humanity, too, has added new instruments, sometimes soft and thoughtful, sometimes loud and dissonant. Climate change is what happens when the orchestra plays out of sync with itself. Yet even in discord, there remains the possibility of rediscovered harmony. The universe has always expressed itself through cycles. Galaxies spin, planets orbit, and life follows its own spirals of birth and decay. Energy moves endlessly, never wasted, only transformed. The warmth that leaves your skin tonight will become the breeze of tomorrow. The water that falls as rain will return as mist. The atoms within you have traveled through stars, oceans, and mountains. To exist is to participate in these cycles. Climate change is not outside of that story. It is the acceleration of one chapter, asking for awareness to slow it again. Somewhere in the desert, wind carves patterns into stone, the handwriting of time written in grains of sand. Each curve tells of centuries of air, pressure, and patience. The climate, too, writes such patterns across landscapes. Rivers shift their beds, forests migrate uphill, coastlines redraw themselves under the weight of tides. These changes are not punishments but continuations. Reminders that the earth has never been still. The difference now is speed. And the lesson hidden within that speed is restraint. The planet moves with a kind of wisdom older than memory. It knows how to recover, how to rest, how to adapt. Forests regrow after fire because ashes enrich the soil. Coral fragments carried by waves settle and bloom again, even in the aftermath of storms. Seeds sprout in cracks, finding new ground. The resilience of life is its quiet defiance against finality. The same resilience lives within you, the ability to begin again, to heal, to forgive. The cycles that restore the world are the same ones that mend the human heart. Somewhere in the depth of the ocean, whales are singing. Their voices carry for hundreds of miles, echoing through layers of water dense with history. The frequency of their song changes as the water warms, adapting to new acoustics. Even in sound, life adjusts to change. The ocean becomes an archive of adaptation, a place where every note is an answer to transformation. Listening to it is like hearing the planet think. Humanity's role in this grand pattern is neither villain nor victim. It is witness and participant. The intelligence that built cities and measured the stars is the same intelligence capable of compassion. Every act of restoration, every choice to live more gently, becomes part of the climate's recovery. The story of the Earth is not finished, because awareness changes the outcome. The moment you see yourself as part of the system, you begin to shift its direction. The climate mirrors consciousness itself, fluid, reactive, and sensitive to attention. When awareness expands, behavior follows. When behavior changes, the system begins to heal. You can feel this truth even in small gestures. Walking instead of driving, planting something green, reducing what you consume. These acts may seem insignificant, yet they ripple outward, altering the collective rhythm of energy and resource. The climate does not demand perfection, it responds to care. Somewhere out there, the same sunlight that nourishes forests also powers homes through silent panels. The same wind that once tore through plains now turns turbines with gentle constancy. Human invention, when aligned with natural rhythm, becomes a continuation of evolution rather than a departure from it. Technology ceases to be opposition and becomes collaboration, a way for the species born of Earth to honor its origins through creativity. In this wider awareness, the idea of climate grows into something intimate. It becomes the emotion of the planet, the mood of existence itself. When the world warms, it is not anger but motion. When it storms, it is not punishment but release. To live within this rhythm is to learn patience, to see in every fluctuation an opportunity to listen more deeply. The challenge of climate change becomes, then, an invitation to consciousness, to inhabit the present moment with more grace. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of light, stars are forming from clouds of dust and gas, chaos becoming harmony again. The same physics that governs their birth governs the air that moves above you now. The universe is practicing balance everywhere, in grand and humble forms alike. And you, breathing quietly beneath the sky, are part of that same lesson. The path forward is not conquest but participation, the rediscovery that to be human is to be planetary. Somewhere out there, the moon lifts over a calm sea, pulling at the tides as it has for billions of years. The same gravitational whisper that stirs the oceans also stirs the rhythms within you. The quiet pulse of blood, the gentle rise and fall of breath. Every movement of your body follows a pattern older than life itself. You are synchronized with the tides without ever noticing. Another reminder that what happens in the sky is never separate from what happens in the soul. The deeper you understand this connection, the softer your perception of climate change becomes. It is no longer a headline of disaster but a dialogue about relationship. The Earth is not asking for guilt, it is asking for attention. It is not demanding sacrifice, it is calling for harmony. When awareness replaces fear, you begin to see how every adjustment, every solution, is already woven into the logic of nature. The same creativity that builds storms also builds renewal. Somewhere in the tropics, rain is falling on volcanic soil, creating new life where destruction once ruled. The minerals released from cooled lava feed roots, and those roots grow forests. Even devastation, in time, becomes nourishment. In the same way, the awareness of loss can become the ground for healing. The grief that humanity feels for melting glaciers and vanishing forests is not emptiness, it is empathy awakening. The planet evolves through feeling as much as through physics. To explore this transformation is to remember that balance is never perfect symmetry, it is fluid grace. The Earth wobbles slightly on its axis, and that wobble creates seasons. Rivers flood and recede, and that motion renews the land. Everything that lives learns to dance with uncertainty. The climate, too, is a dancer, sometimes elegant, sometimes wild, always moving toward equilibrium. When we join that dance with awareness, our actions begin to follow the same rhythm. Somewhere in the high atmosphere, a bolt of lightning flashes, heating the air to tens of thousands of degrees for less than a second. In that instant, nitrogen combines with oxygen, forming compounds that will later feed plants and animals. Even destruction becomes creation when seen through the lens of time. Every storm, every eruption, every surge of energy feeds the continuous renewal of life. The challenge for humanity is to honor that cycle without accelerating it beyond what nature can absorb. The climate's transformations remind us that permanence has always been an illusion. Continents drift, mountains rise and erode, oceans expand and contract. The Earth has been through ice and fire before, long before our awareness could record it. Yet this time, the change comes with consciousness, a living witness capable of reflection. This awareness gives meaning to the motion, turning natural evolution into a moral question. How will we use our ability to know? Somewhere out there, forests are inhaling the carbon that humans release. Each leaf, each blade of grass, each drop of algae in the ocean is a small act of forgiveness. Life does not retaliate, it adapts. It absorbs. It tries to restore the balance. In return, we are offered the lesson of reciprocity, to give back with the same quiet persistence. The climate's healing is not an event. It is a relationship renewed through countless small acts of alignment. The more closely you look, the more the world reflects inner truths. A rising temperature resembles impatience. A drought mirrors neglect. A storm embodies release. Every outer imbalance finds its echo in the human spirit. Just as the planet heals through rhythm, so does the mind. Meditation, compassion, and rest are the inner equivalents of reforestation, restoration, and renewal. What humanity does to itself, it does to the earth. What it restores within, it restores without. Somewhere in the early morning, dew collects on blades of grass. Tiny drops catch the first rays of the sun, turning the field into a mosaic of light. Each drop reflects the sky in miniature, carrying within it a whole universe inverted. The same is true of you, a single consciousness reflecting the vastness that gave it birth. Climate change, when viewed from this depth, becomes not only a challenge to the world but a calling to the soul, to live in ways that honor the reflection you are. The truth that emerges from all this is not despair but intimacy. You are connected to the sun through warmth, to the air through breath, to the earth through gravity. You belong to this conversation whether you choose to or not. The question is not whether the planet will survive, it will. The question is how gently we can live within its heartbeat, how softly we can walk across its memory, To be alive in this moment is to be part of a turning point, not an ending, but an evolution of awareness. And as you breathe, you can almost feel the earth breathing with you. Its inhalation is the growth of forests, its exhalation is the rise of storms. Each breath you take is a promise that life continues. The second expansion reminds you that the line between self and world has always been imaginary. There is no boundary between the air within you and the air outside. They are the same, flowing endlessly, carrying life through all things. You are, and have always been, part of the climate's quiet rhythm of renewal. Somewhere out there, in the silence between waves, the ocean holds the memory of every wind that has ever touched its surface. Each ripple is a response to the pull of gravity, the push of air, the warmth of light. The sea remembers everything, the songs of whales, the thunder of storms, the tremor of melting ice. It is both mirror and mind, reflecting the atmosphere while teaching it to breathe. The climate story lives here, written in layers of salt and current, a fluid archive of time. When you close your eyes and imagine that vastness, you may sense a subtle truth. The ocean is not separate from you. The salt in your tears comes from ancient seas. The minerals in your bones were once dissolved in water. The same hydrogen and oxygen that flow through your veins once drifted through clouds and rivers. Cycling endlessly through forms, you carry the ocean within you, just as it carries the echo of your breath through the air above it. Somewhere above, clouds gather again, born of the same vapor that once fell as rain upon your ancestors. They rise in spirals of moisture, drawn upward by invisible hands of heat and motion. When they release, the rain they carry becomes rivers that carve valleys, fill lakes, and feed forests. Every drop participates in an unbroken circuit of renewal. Climate is this circuit, the choreography of elements that makes the world possible. When we disrupt it, the rhythm falters. When we honor it, harmony returns. The deeper truth of climate change is not catastrophe, but intimacy rediscovered. The earth is reminding its children that nothing exists alone. The heat of one action becomes the storm of another. The care shown in one moment becomes balance in the next. Cause and effect are not punishment and reward. They're the dialogue of energy seeking understanding. The universe speaks this way, through exchange, through response, through transformation. Somewhere in a distant valley, a child looks up at the sky, unaware that the sunlight warming her skin has traveled 100 million miles. Somewhere else, another child watches lightning split the clouds and feels fear mixed with wonder. These small awakenings are the beginning of awareness. To sense connection, even without words, is the seed of wisdom. Climate change becomes, then, not just a scientific lesson but a spiritual curriculum, teaching humanity how to feel scale without losing tenderness. The expansion of awareness moves in both directions, outward into the cosmos and inward into consciousness. As we explore galaxies, we also explore empathy. As we map oceans, we map understanding. The data that defines temperature and pressure is also the language of relationship. Every discovery we make about the climate is, in truth, a discovery about ourselves. We learn how easily balance can be lost, how quickly it can be restored, how much beauty depends on cooperation between opposites. Somewhere in the high Arctic, the aurora dances across the night sky, curtains of color rippling like the planet's own breath made visible. Those lights are the result of solar particles colliding with the atmosphere. The meeting of Earth and cosmos in radiant conversation. They remind us that our planet is not alone in the dark but illuminated through relationship. Climate, 2. Is such a meeting, the interaction of sunlight and matter, energy and motion, life and awareness. In the heart of this realization lies humility. The scale of the planet is immense. Yet the principle that governs it is simple. What you give is what you receive. Every emission, every forest, every act of care or neglect joins the same equation. The balance of the earth reflects the balance of intention. Awareness is not small against such magnitude, it is the missing variable that changes everything. The more conscious a species becomes, the more capable it is of harmony. Somewhere in the mountains, snow is falling softly on ancient stone. Each flake is a tiny hexagon of order, formed from randomness by the logic of temperature and humidity. There are no two alike, yet each follows the same invisible law. The climate, too, is made of infinite uniqueness within shared rules. Diversity is its strength, complexity its beauty. When one pattern falters, another arises to maintain equilibrium. The planet's genius lies in this capacity for renewal. A wisdom echoed in every heartbeat that survives difficulty and begins again. And somewhere deep in the human heart, there is a memory older than civilization, the feeling of belonging to something vast and kind. It is the memory of fires under starlight, of winds across open fields, of the scent of rain after drought. This memory is awakening again. The second expansion is not only scientific understanding, it is emotional return. It calls humanity back into relationship with what has always sustained it, the patient, living presence of Earth. You can feel that presence now, steady and compassionate beneath your awareness. The same gravity that holds the moon in orbit holds your feet to the ground. The same sunlight that powers photosynthesis glows faintly through your skin. The climate is not your environment, it is your inheritance. Your reflection, your ongoing conversation with the universe. To understand this is to awaken not only knowledge, but reverence, a quiet devotion to the fragile miracle of balance that allows everything to be. Somewhere out there, night is falling over a different continent, and the air cools in slow surrender. Cities begin to glow like constellations on the surface of the earth, their lights flickering through mist and cloud. From above, they resemble stars, a reflection of the heavens upon the ground. The same energy that fuels those lights was once sunlight stored in rock, wind, or water. Even human creation is another expression of the planet's memory transforming into motion. The story of climate change is not a separation between nature and civilization. It is the meeting point where both learn to coexist consciously. The expansion of awareness continues here, where science becomes philosophy and feeling becomes knowledge. You begin to understand that the balance the world seeks is also the balance within yourself. The turbulence of the atmosphere mirrors the restlessness of the mind. The calm of the ocean mirrors the depth of quiet waiting beneath your thoughts. When humanity restores peace within, that calm radiates outward. The planet and the mind are reflections of the same energy seeking coherence. Somewhere in a rainforest, unseen beneath the canopy, roots are whispering to each other through the soil. They share nutrients, send warnings, exchange carbon and water. Trees do not live alone. They exist as networks of generosity. A fallen tree becomes food for the living. A new sapling grows from decay. This constant communication mirrors the principle that sustains the world: connection, exchange, renewal. Climate change reminds us not only of imbalance but of how quickly harmony returns when we remember that everything thrives through relationship. The sky itself behaves this way. High clouds share their heat with lower layers. Winds born in one hemisphere complete their circuit in another. When a volcano erupts, its particles travel the entire globe, tinting sunsets on distant shores. The climate's changes are planetary conversations, every action answered by another. The illusion of isolation dissolves the moment you see the continuity of air and motion, the same molecules circling the planet again and again, touching every life, every generation. Somewhere in the desert, wind gathers into a spiral and becomes a storm. Somewhere else, rain falls on a field and begins a new river. Somewhere within you, a thought becomes compassion, a choice becomes change. The universe operates through these invisible thresholds where the small becomes infinite. Each act of awareness, each quiet moment of gratitude, each decision guided by care, joins the unseen architecture of healing. Climate change, viewed through this lens, is not only the result of what we have done but the invitation to what we can still become. When you look at the timeline of the planet, the human era is a blink, brief yet luminous. In that blink, the species has learned to split the atom, measure galaxies, and hear the heartbeat of the planet itself. Such knowledge carries both weight and wonder. The responsibility it brings is not punishment but privilege, to be awake enough to respond, intelligent enough to choose. The Earth has entrusted us with awareness, and that awareness is how we participate in its evolution. Somewhere far away, deep under the Antarctic ice, bubbles of ancient air are rising slowly toward the surface. Each one contains a whisper of the past, the chemistry of forgotten skies, the breath of forests that no longer exist. Scientists read these bubbles as though reading the planet's diary. The message they find is not despair, it is continuity. The Earth records everything, not to accuse but to remember. Every layer of ice, every ring of a tree, every fossilized coral is a note in a single symphony of time. In this light, the climate's instability becomes a mirror for spiritual resilience. You begin to see that uncertainty itself is fertile ground. When structures fail, creativity awakens. When comfort dissolves, empathy grows. The same transformation that reshapes coastlines also reshapes consciousness. The edge of difficulty is where awareness sharpens, where humanity remembers how to listen. The storm, in its most poetic form, is the teacher that silence could not be. Somewhere in the mountains, wind carries the scent of pine and stone. Somewhere in the city, rain falls softly on glass and concrete. The same water, the same air, the same story moves through both. The lesson of the climate is equality, that everything, from a drop of dew to the orbit of the moon, participates in one shared existence. The realization of this unity is the true expansion, the second awakening of science into soul. As you breathe now, you may feel that unity in your body, the steady warmth of blood, the rhythm of lungs, the faint hum that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. That hum is the music of the universe continuing. The world is not ending, it is reminding itself of balance. You are part of that reminder, an expression of the planet's desire to remain alive, aware, and beautiful. Climate change is not the closing of a book, it is the turning of a page. The moment the story begins to write itself more consciously through you. The journey has carried you through the breath of the earth, through warmth and water, through memory and motion, through science and silence. You have seen how light becomes life, how air becomes song, how every moment of change holds within it the seed of renewal. Now, as the rhythm slows and the world around you softens, you begin to feel what the climate has been whispering all along. Balance is not stillness, but harmony in motion. the earth continues to turn beneath you. A vast sphere of light and shadow spinning through space. From the perspective of the cosmos, its storms are gentle ripples, its fires brief glows. Yet to us who live upon it, each breeze, each drop of rain, each season carries meaning. We are creatures of rhythm, shaped by sunrise and tide, by warmth and coolness. Climate change reminds us of this connection, of how deeply we belong to the movements of our home. You can feel that belonging in your breath. The air you inhale carries fragments of ancient forests, salt from the ocean, dust from the mountains. The air you exhale will travel on the wind, to be drawn one day into another pair of lungs, another life. Each breath is both personal and planetary. In this quiet exchange, you discover what the word climate truly means: not weather, not temperature, but relationship. The planet does not ask you to carry its pain. It asks you to remember your place within its circle. For every act of harm, there can be one of care. For every emission, there can be restoration. The balance does not come from perfection but from participation. To live consciously is to move in rhythm with the earth, to understand that small kindnesses accumulate like rainfall, reshaping the landscape of possibility. Somewhere far away, the sea glimmers under moonlight. The tide is turning, as it always has, in endless patience. The same moon that pulls at the waves pulls at the waters within you. Your heartbeat responds faintly, as if remembering an ancient conversation. You and the ocean are both vessels of rhythm, both shaped by gravity, both carrying salt, both forever returning to equilibrium. The climate story is written not in despair, but in cycles that know how to heal. Look back through the ages, and you will see that the earth has survived worse ice ages and fire ages, collisions and extinctions. Each time, life withdrew for a while, then returned in new forms, brighter and more diverse. Change has always been the sculptor of creation. Humanity's gift is to witness this process with awareness, to take part in the shaping of the next chapter. The fact that we can understand the climate means we can also guide it gently back toward balance. In this stillness, gratitude begins to rise like dawn. You feel thankful for the air that holds you, for the warmth that allows life to exist, for the water that moves through you in endless renewal. Gratitude is a quiet form of wisdom. It tells you that existence itself is enough, that to breathe, to care, to notice, is already to heal something unseen. The climate listens to gratitude the way soil listens to rain. Every act of appreciation nourishes balance. You may think of future generations now, faces you will never see, hearts that will beat under skies you will never stand beneath. They, too, will inherit this world of light and water, this fragile home wrapped in blue. Every choice you make ripples toward them, like wind spreading seeds beyond the horizon. To care for the climate is to care for memory, for the continuity of wonder that connects all life through time. Outside your window, perhaps the night is calm. The sound of wind, the whisper of leaves, the distant hush of the world continuing. These are reminders that the earth is still here, still breathing, still beautiful. Even in its imbalance, it remains full of grace. The changes unfolding are not a punishment but a transition, a call toward awareness and tenderness. The climate's message is the same as the heart's: to slow down, to listen, to love what is fragile while there is still time. And as you listen, you realize that this journey has not been about fear or even knowledge. It has been about belonging, the quiet recognition that you and the earth are one motion, one thought, one breath. The story of climate change, like every story of transformation, ends not in despair but in remembering. The earth will continue, and so will you, carried together through the rhythm of creation and renewal. Always turning, always learning. Now the story comes to rest. Not in ending, but in quiet continuation. The night stretches softly across the sky, and the air feels slower, deeper, older. Somewhere, waves are touching the shore in calm repetition. The same rhythm that has cradled every living generation. The planet, with all its storms and silences, keeps breathing, and you, lying within that breath, begin to sense the gentleness of belonging to something vast and alive. Close your eyes and imagine the view from far above the earth. The blue of the ocean swirls with clouds, white and delicate, moving in patterns of balance too wide for the mind to hold. Deserts glow like gold beneath the sun, forests shimmer like veins of green. Every living thing moves together in a choreography of necessity and grace. It is beautiful, even in its imperfection. Climate change does not erase that beauty, it reveals it, reminding you that fragility is part of the design. Somewhere out there, the wind is traveling from one hemisphere to another, carrying warmth, moisture, and memory. The same molecules that touched ancient trees and crossed the faces of explorers are now passing through you. This is what eternity feels like, not infinite time, but infinite connection. The climate, with all its complexity, is the medium through which life remains united. Every breath is a meeting between the past and the future. The earth has always been a storyteller. It speaks in seasons, in migrations, in the patterns of growth and decay. For thousands of years, humanity has listened, through myth, through art, through science, translating the planet's rhythm into language. Climate change is one of those stories, but not the final one. It is a chapter in which awareness grows, where fear turns into understanding, and understanding into care. It is the earth teaching you how to listen again, how to see beyond urgency into intimacy. As you rest within this understanding, the edges between self and world dissolve. You feel the softness of the air on your skin, the quiet warmth within your chest, the pulse of blood echoing faintly like the sea. These are not separate sensations, they are the same movement in different forms. You are the weather of your own soul, sometimes bright, sometimes cloudy, always changing, always returning to calm. In this way, the climate outside mirrors the climate within. The future remains unwritten, but it is not uncertain. The laws of nature that govern the motion of planets also govern the potential for healing. Energy follows attention. When enough hearts turn toward care, the balance shifts. The forests begin to regrow. The waters clear. The air learns to sing again. Every act of restoration, no matter how small, is amplified through connection. The earth hears the intention behind every gesture and responds in kind. You may not see the full restoration in your lifetime, but that has never been the point. Life has always worked in continuity, each generation planting what the next will harvest. The trees that shade the world today were sown by hands long gone. The rivers that sustain millions were carved by patience, not haste. Your part is not to finish the work, but to join it, to add your thread to the tapestry that time is still weaving. Somewhere, dawn is breaking again. Light returns, spilling over the curve of the planet, gilding the peaks and the plains. The first ray's touch leaves heavy with dew. Cities still half asleep, oceans waiting for their morning shimmer. The warmth is gentle, like a promise whispered to everything that breathes. There will always be another beginning. The earth, in all its resilience, always finds its way back to equilibrium. Take one final deep breath. Let it fill you with calm, with gratitude, with quiet wonder. Feel the air move through you as though the planet itself were exhaling through your lungs. The story of climate change, of imbalance, awareness, and renewal, is also the story of life remembering how to care for itself. You are not apart from that remembrance, you are part of its awakening. The night is still, and the world is safe in its slow turning. The stars above glow softly. Not distant, but familiar. They are reminders that change is eternal. But so is balance. You are alive within that balance, delicate, necessary, and loved by the universe that made you. The story ends here only in words. In truth, it continues in silence, in wind, in breath, in the heartbeat of the planet that carries you gently toward morning. Sleep now, under the watch of the same stars that have witnessed every age of the earth. Let their calm light remind you that the world is still in motion, still learning, still beautiful. You are part of that beauty, one small breath within an endless rhythm of renewal. And as the last of your thoughts drift toward quiet, the earth continues to turn, humming softly, alive, balanced, eternal.